Everyone, this is the video to kind of help you through thinking through assignment 6 and just offer some very basic tips for you. So we're going to start here with a blank max patch, and what we're going to do is we're going to be adding objects that allow for some interactivity. Now, I listed some of the names of those objects in the description that's on Canvas and the description on the website, and so going through some of those real quick, there is picked slider. So you type N or create an object up here, and then write in picked slider, and it creates this kind of XY graph. I'm gonna make it a little bigger just for us to see a little more clearly. Now this one is going to send out integers from its left and right outlets based on the position of the little ball here. So what I did to manipulate this was I locked the patcher, and then I scrolled around with this, and it changes according to horizontal value and vertical value. Now, if you wanted to convert that to a float, right, then we'd have to do just a little quick mathematical thing using one of our math operators. So let's say I wanted it to be a float, and I did it by 0.1 like this. Oops, I wanted to multiply it by that. Silly me. I'm tired after jazz band. Do it like that. Aha! And now the horizontal value has been turned into a float. Silly me. So yeah, that's the way you can quickly mathematically turn something into a float. Math operator, multiply, not divide. And then I multiplied it by 0.01 to get this float. The reason I say that is because if you're playing with some of the many of the ABL.device.dsp, etc., these devices, many of their parameters are going to want a float, and you can actually convert these integers, like I did, into a float that will be read by that parameter. I'll give an example in a second. So picked slider is one possible option for us. There's also K slider, which makes a little keyboard, as we've seen before. And remember, this one will put out two integers. One for pitch and the other for velocity. It's recommended that you create an attribute, ATTRUI, attribute user interface, and then plug it in here. And I recommend strongly that you make display mode touchscreen. It's going to behave in a way that I think you'll like better for clicking on the keyboard. So this is like a little thing that actually can become an instrument. Pretty straightforward, right? I have another suggestion. I mentioned you can use a series of buttons and bangs. I'm gonna suggest strongly to you that if you'd use a series of buttons, right, to trigger other events, like you're inviting the user, that's me, you're inviting the user to press this to get some kind of sound or to send some kind of signal, I recommend labeling them and putting a little comment box above them and saying, press me, or if you're gonna map it to a keyboard key, put that keyboard key in parentheses, or just indicate somehow to the user, that's me, that it's mapped. Now, do you remember how we mapped keys? We did this in class in the last lecture. It was down here at the bottom where it says assign key map. So if you click on assign key map, your screen turns a different color, and the things that can be mapped to a key become surrounded by this orange stripy background. So what you do is you click on one of them, hit enable for mapping, and when it turns this color, it is waiting for the next key input. So for no reason at all, I'm just gonna hit G. So I get out of assign, I get out of key mapping. I'm gonna lock the patcher, and let's try it. I'm gonna press G on my keyboard, and it works. that was the process. So actually not press me A, press me G. I made a G. If you're going to make like a drum machine or some kind of instrument, maybe even like a type of like a keyboard using the keys on the computer keyboard, I recommend strongly that you go over here where the little sliders are. It says show mappings. If you click on that, it will show you where all the button mappings are in your patch. The reason that's cool is because you're going to want to turn any button you have, trigger mode, into momentary switch. Now there's a difference. If you were watching carefully, when I hit G, you probably heard it on my keyboard, and then you noticed that it lit up and then it stayed lit. Now that I've changed it to momentary switch, it'll stay lit as long as I hold down G, but as soon as I release, it's gone. So that's going to work much better for your instrument controls to do it that way. There are other ways to represent different values, and I'm showing you these so that you can experiment with them. There's also slider, not the K slider, just the slider. And it moves up and down. And it outputs a number. By default, it's set to 128. Now, check this out. Both the picked slider and the regular slider, you can go, if you select them and then go to Inspector, you can see their attributes, including their range or minimum. Yeah, this one has value at right side, value at top, so that's the upper value, right? So you can change some of those things if for some reason you want a greater domain of numbers. Remember that with MIDI 1.0, we're dealing with 7-bit, we're dealing with 128 values. But there might be, I don't know, other situations you're thinking of where you might want to check for a certain number or translate a certain number or do some kind of other math operation. It's available to you. Okay. I also mentioned Live Grid. You can use Live Grid. I recommend with Live Grid that you go to the inspector and that if you're going to use it the way we used it in class, I would get rid of the display directions. I would put it in matrix mode. I would do, 16. I'll do 8 just for simplicity. And then I would do just one row. Remember that with this one, it only really is going to work the way we want it to as a sequencer with time. With these ones, they can be asynchronous. You can make it so that the user presses something and the sound comes out. You can also make another kind of sequencer, essentially. With a caveat, I want you to actually go beyond the MIDI and use digital audio, but we'll talk about that in a second. But remember, if you do that, you need to have a toggle, a metro, and then you need a counter, and the counter should match the number you have here of squares, and that you're going to plug these in. And then notice that when it's on, it starts counting. This is important. When it is illuminated, like so, it outputs 1. And if it's not illuminated, it outputs 0. So remember, if you're going to use this as a type of sequencer that a user can manipulate to make a beat in your device, you need to make it so that this outlet right here is checking, right, for a 1 or a 0. The quick way to do that is you can either make a select 1, or if, remember this, the if statements, and it has to have equal equal 1, then bang. If you plug those in, it will be checking for that little parameter to be satisfied. It's going to go again, Here we go. Boom. Yep, it works. What about this one? Let's make sure our code works over here. Boom. Yep, the other one works too. So those are ways that you can kind of gate it, because it's not going to output a MIDI number specifically. It's just going to be, it's either on or off. But the fact that it counts for us and it does those things is pretty helpful and pretty useful. So thinking about these controls, what you want to do is imagine, how can I take numbers and produce interesting sounds? Well, there's basically, because I want you to do digital audio and not just MIDI sounds, the way to do that, let me zoom out here. Let me get rid of the inspector. If we go, I'll build it down here. I'm going to move these out of the way. So remember that because we're dealing with digital audio, we need to actually create an easy digital to analog converter, the easy DAC. And then we're not going to deal with the input just yet right now. Let's do live.gain. Remember this one? This is a really easy to use stereo meter. And remember that that needs to be hooked up there. Yep. And let's say we have, well, okay, here are your options. Check it out. So you can make some of these things play a sound, modify a sound, etc. If I make a quick one that modifies a sound, well, I can bring in one of these samples. I clicked over here on audio, and your install of Macs or the ones on the computers come with these sounds. Things like, or, whoa, whoa. Okay. Yeah. You can select any one of them that you want. So I'm going to go with, that's great. I love that.
The huge double bass.
The huge double bass. You know I'm going to put that. Okay, here we go. The huge, I forgot about this one. This one comes default. I love it. So I'm going to plug this one into the live gain. And then make sure my audio is on. Notice that if the audio is not on, that little triangle doesn't light up. Audio is on because I locked the patcher and clicked on it.
Big huge double bass.
And you can hear that. You can hear that sound clip. So how would you get that thing to play by sending it information? Well, let's find out. Does it accept a bang? Nope, I can't even plug one into it. Darn, that's so frustrating. Well, one thing it will accept is a 1.
Big huge double bass.
When it receives value 1, it'll play.
Big huge double bass.
Now, you could also make it so if there's a button like this, let's say you're like, oh, press this one to do the thing. Okay, great.
Big huge double bass.
Right, it has to hear a 1 here. It has to receive a 1.
Big huge double bass.
Okay. Now, to make this a bit more interesting, because that's not terribly interesting, we can send some other numbers and parameters into this thing. Let's go to playlist help, and let's look here. So remember from our class here, we have the ability to drag our cursor through the sound file itself to play certain parts of it, and then we can loop things. But what I really care about, this is what I cared about. So this is a little bit advanced right here, but let me break this down. So let's do this. This one's gonna trigger clip 2 to play. Audio's on. Cool. I'm gonna make it loop. Now you can send text like this in a message box, what's happening? What's happening is we have a message box that is saying set clip number 2. Well, that's because this is clip 2, right? In a number of sound files. You could just say set clip 1 speed, and then this is the variable. Remember how we said that the number sign? Okay, I'm gonna turn that off because I'm going crazy. So that number sign is the variable. And so now I'm sending a float into it. Notice if it's negative, it goes backwards. Okay, wait a minute. I hope you're thinking creatively right now, because that means that you could have a picked slider or a regular slider or something that's a float going into a message like that, plugged into plugged into this object, right? That the user of your patch, the player of your patch, is not like typing text. I'm actually like pressing buttons or doing something that you've invited me to do in the patch, and then getting really weird sounds in an unexpected way. So that's what I mean by instrument that has a level of interactivity, right? Now, there's also things like setting the pitch shift. This one only wants values between 1 and 0. Wait, no, that's a lie, I'm sorry. I misspoke. It really seems to be values between 0 and 10. I'm just playing with it, yeah. Anyway. So yeah. Whoa. You can set looping by making a command or something, yeah, or you can just press the loop here. That's true too. Selection, you can do it in milliseconds or in this way. Anyway. If I were you and you want, if you wanted to experiment with these things, you can literally unlock the help patcher and then copy and paste some of these things. Could you actually copy and paste this whole thing to help you use it? Yes. Yes, you can. Copy. And that would put everything on the clipboard, and then I could drop it into my patch. That would be cool, because then you don't have to sit here and like type out this exact thing. You can just literally steal it and plug it in and then modify it and use it. Remember, this one is called set clip 2 because there are 3 clips in this playlist. You're only dealing with one. But it's possible you could have multiple clips in your playlist. Okay, well, this is one possible option, right? Is dealing directly with this digital audio to make weird loops and weird things happen, right? So, another option other than this is to use one of these built-in instruments. I was suggesting, a lot of these are effects. I was recommending using like Big Ben Bell because it's very basic. It's very basic and you kind of can't go wrong with it. That you could, like, remember the one we did in class where we sent MIDI values into it? Do you remember? Okay, well, I can't hear you because you're watching this asynchronously. Anyway, that's a joke. So I'm gonna take this K-slider object up here, and remember, I need to take these 2 integers and make them into a list. I'm gonna put pack, pack. Oops, no, I need that to go to the second inlet, right? Because it's 2 objects. And then I need to go MIDI format, and then I need to send the packed list to MIDI format, and then I'm going to send MIDI format to the Big Ben Bell. And let's see. Good. Sorry, I had to scroll up. I'll bring this up here. So notice I hit the button, and I'm not hearing anything, but positive sign is I have audio going through the Big Ben Bell. Great. Let's plug in. We can still use the same live game. We don't need to make another one. And then let's it works. Hooray! Now, I'm going to clarify this in the instructions. I want you to use at least one effect. Because that's all fine and good. But I want you, and we talked about this in class, I want you to be able to put an effect in the signal path and then have that modifier sound. That would be the case whether you were using just the digital audio clips
Big Hughes double bass.
or you were using the Big Ben Bell. So let me demonstrate. How would you use that? Well, we have these Ableton devices right here. So here's a delay. That's the one that we used. Here we have heavy and broken guitar pedal distortion. Of course, everyone needs that. All kinds of stuff. You can choose whichever one you want to, but you should read the help file to help you use it. I'm going to use the plate reverb, which is imitating old analog studio technology. I'm going to look at the help. That was I did a double click on the trackpad. If you're on the mouse, it's a right click. And look, this is how this thing behaves. So this is another kind of playlist object. Great, big deal. It's going to loop. It's going to play. It's playing. The thing I really care about is that I need to plug in these ATTRUI boxes, attribute user interface boxes, into the reverb so I can see these different things that can be changed. This reverb only has 4 available parameters, and those are all represented here. Now, when I have the sound looping, I can change these. Sounds like I'm in a tunnel. Pretty cool. Remember, notice that damping is accepting integers. I'm sorry, damping is accepting a float, but it's a higher than 1, I meant to say. Forgive me, I'm tired. It's been a jazz band, a long day. Anyway, so yes, it's still accepting a float, but it's dealing with larger numbers. These on the other hand, there's a pre-delay. A pre-delay has a 10 upper limit, 0 lower limit. Our decay is just 1 to 0, and our mix is going to be 1 to 0 as well. When the mix is 0, there's no effect heard. 1 is fully saturated. Okay. Anyway, so you can use this either by, hey, you guessed it, select, copy, yep, and bring it into your patch. You can do that. That's fine. You'll have to make these things that can be changed. Okay, but the thing I really care about is seeing how that behaves. So I make the attribute boxes if I'm going to do this manually. Attribute boxes, Command D, duplicate, Command D, Command D. Great. I'm going to organize these so they are all in a row, so they're easy to see and easy to use. Great. And then I'm going to plug them in over here. Pew, 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 pew. And then I'm going to go up here and I'm going to put this in the signal path. So the thing I need to do, let's do it for the sound clip. So channel 1's going to go into mono channel. That's fine. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. This one is accepting just everything into a mono channel. That's cool. That's fine. Great. Understood. The reason I didn't plug the other one into this one is because it's not accepting that. Some of the effects will be using 2 channel inputs, like a stereo input. This one's taking a mono input, but it has a stereo output, left and right channel. Okay, so now if I play this, whoa, that's already a huge change, a huge difference. Let's do this one.
But choose double bass.
So we already have a big difference. Remember, the order of your effects matters. You can chain multiple effects together, but then you want to think about the audio and the signal path and what's being affected as the audio goes through the path. Okay, so just to break it down again, just to be very clear here, part of the assignment is designing a patch that works, where we're converting MIDI into digital audio using pre-made instruments in our plugins. And the other part is creating something interactive that's going to send numbers down through the line. Now again, just to back this up again, remember what I said toward the beginning? If I converted these into floats, I can go over here and I can have the user change the decay of this thing as it...
But choose double bass. Choose double bass. Choose double bass. Choose double bass.
I have an idea. Let's make the... I want to do it with mix.
Choose double bass. Choose double bass. Choose double bass. Double bass. Choose 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 double bass.
Okay, so I'm just playing around with this pitch slider with the XY and getting really different sounds. Is it possible? Is it possible to think about chaining several pitch sliders together where the values of one are somehow mathematically, they're transformed, they're added, subtracted, multiplied, something is occurring, there's mathematical expression between them, to modify other pitch sliders that are going to different effect parameters? Yeah. You could actually create an entire like chaos device just with one pitch slider that's actually going and affecting other number generators and then sending those values into other parameters in ways that are unexpected. So just to be clear, when we're thinking about, I need to back up again, when we're thinking about music technology here, not everything that we're going to create is going to fit neatly within so-called commercial or vernacular musical contexts. Some of the stuff is like avant-garde, weird computer music. Yeah, for sure. And Max excels at that. It does a lot of other things. It does a great many things. But this is also one of the things that it excels at greatly. So, one more thing before I go. I don't have a PlayStation controller with me because I'm at the university. But I want to say that Max does support gamepads, and it works with the newest generation. So if you were to plug in a device and then use the gamepad output, it might take a little bit of practice getting the values that you want, but it will actually dump out button presses. It'll dump out stick coordinates, like the PlayStation 5 controller and the PS4. It has that little touchpad on the center. It will dump that output too. And so there's ways to get the event messages and control messages and everything out of there. Let me see. Yep. Darn. I need my gamepad with me to demonstrate, which I will do. I will make a I'll have time tonight. Yes, I can do it tonight. I'm going to make a very short 5-minute video just demonstrating using a gamepad for those of you who are interested. If you decide to do that for this assignment, you can. You'll have to let me know that you've used a gamepad so that I can do my best to test it out. Or if you submit it via like making a video, like a QuickTime video, like this video is, then you can demonstrate that to me. Anyway, we'll see more about this. You don't have to do it this way. I'm just putting this out there for those of you who enjoy using game controllers to make noises. Anyway, that is available. Whew, okay, so I hope that this video is helpful. If it's not helpful, well then send me an email and we'll talk and we'll figure it out. Remember, you're making something that's interactive using one of these devices like K slider, pick slider, number input, buttons, keyboard mappings. Okay, it's gonna send just numbers, right, to either control or affect audio and or audio effects that are in the signal chain. They're in the path. Let me organize this lastly just to help you see it. So if I have my audio out on the very bottom and the meter here, you can see the signal path from this K slider object. Lock it. I don't have it on. So, right, I have my keyboard integers. They're being packed into a list because MIDI format wants a list, and then MIDI format sends that information to the instrument, and it sends its audio out to the meter, to the digital to analog converter. Over here, I have something that says go. That thing is just saying go. Play this over and over. You can set the loop. You can do that. Look at the help file. And then in that signal chain, I have a reverb. This sound goes into here. It's modified by these parameters. That goes to the meter, to the out. Okay, I hope that makes sense. That's all I have for this video without getting too technical, because there's even more that could be done that we'll probably discuss in like a quick epilogue video or something. I don't know, for the class. Anyway, if you have any questions about the assignment, please let me know. I'm going to extend the due date a little bit because I took a little too longer than I wanted to get this video out. So I'm actually going to change the due date to be next Thursday, a few more days. Anyway, so you have plenty of time to ask me questions and come to office hours. All right, well, I hope that you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you on Tuesday in class.